In this session, we are going to look into the story The Magic Brocade, a Tale of China by Aaron Shepard. The story begins in ancient China, where lived a poor widow and her only son, Chen. The widow was famous for her weaving. Using threads of silk, gold, and silver, she created brocades so beautiful and lifelike that they seemed almost real. Brocades are rich fabric woven with a raised pattern, typically with gold or silver thread, and this is what the widow made. People admired her work more than anyone else's. One day, at the market, the widow saw a scroll painting of a palace, a dazzling palace surrounded by gardens and fairies. The shopkeeper said it's the painting of the Sun Palace, which was believed to be situated in the far east and is the home of many fairy ladies. She fell in love with the painting and longed to go there. Even though it was an expensive picture, the widow bought it and brought it home and showed it to her son and expressed her desire to live there or visit the palace at least once in her lifetime. After listening to her wishes, her son Chen suggested she weave it into a brocade. Excited by the idea, she began weaving day and night. She worked tirelessly for months and months together, often forgetting to eat or rest, until finally the brocade was finished. By the time she had finished it, her eyes were bloodshot and her fingers became raw with continuous weaving. The hard work paid off well. It was a breathtaking picture. The Sun Palace stood tall with its gardens and fairy ladies, and it was almost real in the brocade. When Chen and the widow were looking at the miraculous and marvelous brocade, suddenly a mysterious wind swept into their cottage, lifted the brocade, and carried it away toward the east. The widow and Chen tried to catch it, but in vain. The brocade vanished, and the widow fainted in grief. Chen carried her into their hut, and when she awoke, she begged Chen to find it. Chen promised her he would. He traveled far to east and eventually met an old woman who told him that the fairies of the Sun Palace had taken the brocade as a pattern for their own weaving. She lent Chen her magical horse, but warned him that he would face two deadly trials. One is crossing the fiery flames of Fiery Mountain without uttering a complaint, and leaping across the icy waters of the icy sea without speaking of his pain was the second hurdle. He had to cross both of these deadly hurdles without complaining of the pain, and if he made even one sound of discontent or pain, he would perish. Chen bravely endured both. In the fiery mountain, the fire burned his skin, but once he crossed it, all the burns vanished. In the icy sea, the ice froze him, but he kept silent. While crossing the sea, he was soaked and was feeling cold terribly, but once he came out of it, he was dried up and was warm as ever. Finally, he reached the Sun Palace, which looked exactly like his mother's brocade. Inside, dozens of fairies were weaving copies of it, and the widow's brocade was hung there for them to look at and do their own weaving. Their leader, Li En, came up to him and greeted him gently. When Chen introduced himself to her, she explained how much they admired his mother's brocade and wished to have it in the Sun Palace. Chen explained to her that his mother will not live without it. Lien is shocked and worried and she promises to return it, but she requests him for her to have it for one more day so that they could all finish their own copies of the brocade. Chen agreed to this. That night, Chen and Lien spoke to each other while Lien was weaving. He told her about his life in the mortal world, and she shared her life in the Sun Palace. They grew close, exchanging warm smiles. Soon, Chen falls asleep in his chair. Lien finished her brocade, and before leaving, she embroiders a tiny image of herself on the steps of the Sun Palace into the widow's brocade and whispered a spell. When Chen wakes up the next morning, he finds that the room is empty. He rolled up the brocade of his mother, and before leaving, he wants to say goodbye to Lien. But because time was running out, he rushed home before saying goodbye, again guided by the magical horse. Once he reached the old woman's hut, she gives him special shoes that helped him travel faster. She also says that his mother is dying fast, and so Chen takes the shoes and, along with the horse, he flies through the forest and reaches his hut. He arrived just in time to save his dying mother. The moment she saw the brocade, strength returned to her body. Both the widow and Chen step out of their hut to have a better view of the brocade. But then something magical happened. The brocade floated into the air. Instead of flying away, it started racing up, growing larger and larger until it became the real Sun Palace. On the steps stood Lien, beckoning them to come inside. Chen and his mother stepped forward and were transported into the palace itself. The fairies welcomed the widow warmly, asking her to stay and teach them her weaving secrets. Overjoyed, she agreed. Chen too found happiness, for he and Lien fell in love and were married. From then on, they lived together in the Sun Palace happily ever after, and people said that no brocades were more beautiful than those woven in the Sun Palace. Now, let us see the themes found in the story. The first theme is love and sacrifice. Chen's journey shows the love of a son for his mother. He risks his life enduring fire and ice to bring back what makes her happy. Second is perseverance and courage. Both the widow and Chen show tireless determination. The widow weaves endlessly to complete her dream, while Chen bravely faces deadly trials without giving up. The next theme is the power of dreams and imagination. The widow's dream of the Sun Palace drives the entire story. Her imagination brings beauty into the world and ultimately transforms into reality. The next theme is magic and transformation. The brocade becoming the real Sun Palace symbolizes how dedication, art, and love can create miracles beyond imagination. The last theme is art as immortality. The widow's weaving lives on in the Sun Palace. The story shows how human creativity and skill can achieve timeless beauty. Finally, we can come to a conclusion that the story, The Magic Brocade, is more than just a fairy tale. It's a story of love, sacrifice, and the power of dreams. Through the widow's dedication and Chen's courage, we see how determination and selflessness can turn imagination into reality. The magical ending, where the brocade becomes the Sun Palace, reminds us that true beauty and happiness are born from love, hard work, and hope. It's a timeless tale that inspires us to dream big and never give up. Thank you.